Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. We're pleased to have you here. It is Tuesday, November 5th, and we start out every meeting by introducing you to your City Council.
Council members Rolfing.
Here.
Staggers.
Present.
Aguilar.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Entenmann. Erpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Thank you very much. Every City Council meeting in the city of Sioux Falls, we start with a prayer, with an invocation. Tonight, we're very blessed to have Pastor David Olsen with Abiding Savior Free Lutheran Church here in town. What we'd ask you to do is to stand. The pastor will provide us with our invocation. And then if you'd remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, we certainly would appreciate it. Pastor David, welcome.
Thank you. Not sure who ordered the snow, but it is beautiful. It's beautiful on the trees and the lights. Let's join together in prayer, shall we? God of all creation and the beauty that we see even tonight, Lord, we call upon you. And in Romans 16 it says that you would want us to be wise in what is good, simple concerning evil. Lord, we pray tonight that you would be honored and praised. You are worthy of praise. You are the source of all that is good, the source of all blessing. Thank you for the gifts that you have given. Lord, I pray for the city council, Lord, often a very thankless position to be in. Pray that you would give wisdom and understanding. Guide them full of your wisdom, that they would produce and respect for one another. Lord, accomplishing your agenda. For we pray this through Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody. What a great crowd, what a great audience, one of the biggest we've ever had. So thank you for making the effort to come here tonight. I do have a couple proclamations that I'd like to read on behalf of the people of our town. Is Renee here? Renee Langen? Come on, Renee, please. And Val Wilkening and Lori Melter. All right, but you were here, Renee. Thank you. Welcome. Renee, please, just come forward. We're going to get you on TV here.
Oh, great.
The proclamation reads, whereas X-ray was discovered by Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen on November 8, 1895. Whereas medical imaging and radiation therapy professionals are vital to the diagnosis and treatment of disease and play an important role in patient care and healthcare safety. Whereas the members of the medical imaging teams are ready to provide diagnostic and therapeutic care to those in need. Whereas access to quality radiologic and radiation therapy services dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas the members of the medical imaging team are trained in radiation protection and engage in specialized training and continuing education to enhance their skills. Whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of the medical imaging professionals in the Sioux Falls area during National Radiologic, thank you. Did you get that, students? Radiologic Technology Week. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim November 3rd through the 9th of this year as National Radiologic Technology Week in Sioux Falls with the theme, Positioning Ourselves for Excellence. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Renee, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Megan Myers. Where's Megan? Megan, you're right in front of me. Come on up. Welcome. Megan, you want to introduce your team here tonight?
Sure.
We have Pam Miller from the American Heart Association, and we have Thomas Asfelt. He's an American Cancer Society volunteer based in Sioux Falls who is with the Cancer Center over at Sanford.
And Cub Scouts, I may get a little emotional on this one. All right? So get ready. Listen to this one. Okay, here we go. Whereas there are 7,000 chemicals in secondhand smoke, hundreds of which are toxic, and 69 which are known to cause cancer. Whereas exposure to secondhand smoke has immediate adverse impact on the cardiovascular system, damaging blood vessels, increasing likelihood of clots, heart attacks, and strokes. Secondhand smoke also increases the risk of emphysema, lung cancer, and other chronic diseases, and causes premature death in children and adults who don't smoke. Whereas tobacco use is responsible for 1,000 deaths in South Dakota annually, including most of the 620 lung cancer deaths. And as you know, that included my dad. Whereas each year, the state of South Dakota spends $274 million on healthcare costs for tobacco-related illnesses. These health and economic costs are shared by every South Dakotan, regardless of whether they smoke or not. Whereas grassroots volunteers in South Dakota have worked for more than 25 years to pass legislation to reduce the harmful effects of smoking and secondhand smoke. Whereas in 2009, the South Dakota legislature and Governor Mike Rounds passed and signed House Bill 1240, prohibiting smoking in all workplaces and public places, including bars and restaurants. Whereas South Dakota voters approved the smoke-free law on November 2010 ballot by a 64% to 36% margin. Whereas there was a nearly 14% decrease in heart disease hospitalizations from 2009 to 2011, the years before and after enactment of the smoke-free law, and an 8% drop in hospitalizations from respiratory illnesses. The drop in heart attacks and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease hospitalizations resulted in a cost savings of nearly $5.5 million in South Dakota. Now, therefore, I am your mayor. I'm proud to be your mayor. I'm Mike Huther, and I do hereby proclaim this day, November 10th. This isn't November 10th. It's Sunday. November 10th, Sunday, as Smoke-Free South Dakota Day in Sioux Falls, and I urge all citizens of our city to recognize the benefits of our statewide smoke-free law as it continues to improve and enhance the health of all South Dakotans. On behalf of the city, thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your efforts. Can we have a round of applause for these folks? Well, thank you for that opportunity, and thanks for your patience. I appreciate it. We do have some special guests in the town. All of you are special guests, don't get me wrong. But we do have some Cub Scout packs here. If we can have Cub Scout Pack 171 from Harrisburg. If you could stand up, please. The den leaders of this Cub Scout pack are Angie Soretto and Cub Master Bobby Gregoire. Very good. Thanks for your leadership and welcome, Cub Scouts. Good to have you here. Then also, we have Cub Scout Pack 225 from Sioux Falls, and their den leaders are Josh Winter and Cub Master Mike Bitts. Would you mind standing? Well, welcome, and we hope you learn a lot tonight. Council, we're going to now go to our consent agenda. And Council, any changes or recommendations to our consent agenda?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Aguilar.
Thank you. Councilor Karski has made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any discussion? Yes, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull 2 items from the consent calendar. The first one would be River Greenway Improvements / Pedestrian Bridge, $19,150. And then the second one would be City Hall Computer Room Air Conditioner, $145,834.
Okay. Councilor Staggers would like to pull 2 items from the consent agenda, one involving River Greenway improvements / pedestrian bridge, and the other one is the City Hall Computer Room Air Conditioner. Very good. Councilor?
Mayor, I just have a question on item number 18. It's a proposed resolution amending the 2013-2017 capital program. I was trying to look online too, just to see what the proposed amendment was going to be.
And Councilor, are you asking for someone to address that now, or what would?
Either that, or we can pull this item also.
Councilor
Please pull that
Karski,
item.
any direction? What would you prefer to do?
I'd say we pull it off.
Very good. We need a second to do that.
Second, Erpenbach.
Okay. Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to remove or postpone item 18.
Just remove it from the.
Just
pull it to
remove
discuss.
it and discuss.
Well, okay, and then it has been seconded. All those in favor, or no, we need a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing,
Clarification, is this all 3 or just the first 2?
No,
Just the last one.
The Anderson
Just the last one?
Yes.
Yes.
Council member Staggers,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Very good. Let's see. Do we want to go to the items that Councilor Staggers?
Gotta pass this first.
You got to approve that.
Okay. Okay. Well, there has been we're going to take 2 of the items off the consent agenda. That's already been done. Now, are there any other motions on the consent agenda? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Very good. That is also passed 7-0. Now move on to item 16. Or should we go to the
Regular agenda.
regular agenda? We'll go to the regular agenda. Item number. A motion to approve the regular agenda.
So moved. Karski.
Second, Anderson.
So, on a motion by Councilor Karski to approve our regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Any discussion on this? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Thank you. Folks, again, welcome to the City Council meeting tonight. We're pleased to have you here. You do have an opportunity to engage the City Council if you want on any topic that is important to you. We just ask you to introduce yourself to the people of our town and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Is there anybody who wanted to engage the council tonight? Well, thank you very much. We still appreciate you being here. We'll now move on to item number 31. Or do you want to do the 2 contracts?
Yeah.
We'll go to Councilor Staggers, 2 items. Councilor Staggers, please, you have the floor.
Yes. I guess the first item I was curious about was the River Greenway Improvements / Pedestrian Bridge, the $19,150. We've been told that part of the $19,150 would be used for improving the bridge itself, electricity, and so forth to make it ADA compliant. However, my understanding is that, well, that's just part of the $19,150. What is the remaining amount for?
Good evening, City Council members. Don Kearney of the Parks and Rec. The balance of about $11,000 of the $19,000 proposal from Confluence represents work they needed to do for the design of the renovations to the existing railroad bridge that we're currently working on. And the other work that was involved included working with the Siouxland Heritage Museums to put up interpretive panels on the light boxes that we have on the River Greenway. And so there's two major pieces of the proposal that's before you tonight.
Okay, so we're going to spend about $8,000 for some relief
Yeah,
on the
interpretive panels that would talk about the history of the area, like we had on Phase 1 as well. And so the light boxes that are on those piers will be able to have interpretive panels so that as people walk by, they understand the history of the area.
Also, too, we've received some emails here about a number of $83,200. I guess I'm getting a little confused here with $19,150, which thank you for explaining, and then this other $83,200. What's
The $83,000 is the change order that was approved to make the renovations to the bridge. As part of the base bid on Phase 2, the work went up to the railroad bridge, but as we got into the project and all the businesses started popping up along the east bank, there was a desire to have access across that railroad bridge and renovate that so that it would be pedestrian friendly, would provide ADA access, we'd have some lighting on it as well, and then also replace the guardrails that were on the side of it so that if you'd ever been on it, it was a pretty bumpy, non-compliant surface. So that's what that $83,000 is for the contractor to do the actual work.
Okay, so just to clarify, I think I understand now. The $83,200 is actually to renovate the bridge itself.
Correct.
And then $11,000 goes to the Confluence for their advice and so forth.
Yeah, and design services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And then we also have the City Hall computer room air conditioner at $145,834.
Good evening, Kelsey Johnson, Central Services. And I think Eric Jelkin, Central Services, is also here for any questions.
Yeah. Now, we've been given two explanations here for spending this $145,000. That the present air conditioner is undersized. Can you say some more about that? Because I'm not aware of us having any computer problems. And, of course, right now it's pretty cold outside.
Correct. We actually have two air conditioners right now. One of them is currently undersized. One of them is currently working, but in the computer room, we need redundancy in case one fails.
So if the one unit would fail, the one that's sized properly, we wouldn't be able to adequately cool the computer equipment.
Oh, okay.
Also, for maintenance issues, if one needs to be worked on, we need to be able to take one down to work on the other one.
Okay. So we have one that's undersized and has reached the end of its life, right?
Correct. It's 20 years old.
20 years old. And then the second one we have that's working, how old is that?
It's 6 years old.
6 years old, so we don't have to worry about that for quite a while yet.
Correct.
Okay. And $145,000. I'm not an expert on air conditioning, but it does seem like really quite a bit of money.
That's because this unit is a special unit for a computer room. Okay. And the size of the unit plus the expense of the installation is what drives the cost up or puts the cost at what it is.
Okay, fine. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Urbanbach?
I'd move to approve both those items, please.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Urbanbach's been a motion to approve those two items that have been discussed. Councilor Aguilar has seconded that. Any additional discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entman? I'm sorry, Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison? Karski?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. Item 18.
Sorry, one moment, please. A proposed resolution amending the 2013-2017 capital program.
Mark.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This item is actually to reflect a sale that we're going to talk about later tonight. amending those proceeds or those revenues into the program. And so this item is actually to be deferred a week, and so it's not an action item for tonight. Okay.
Mark, could you tell us what item this is associated with?
Certainly. This is item, let me get it to it. This will be in conjunction with item 42. We're recommending a land sale to Sioux Falls Development Foundation near Benson Road and I-229. As a part of the land transfer, they'll be providing the city about $369,000. And then we'll take those dollars and amend them into the capital program. And so to not get one on the same night as the night that you'd be considering the land sale, we were asking for it to be deferred at least 1 week. So.
And if I may, is this going to be property somewhere in the area of that new road that we're constructing into the development area?
Yes, and I have graphics for you tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Move for approval, Anderson.
What we're doing, Councilor Anderson Jr., we'll set a date of hearing for Tuesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. for this item. Councilor Anderson Jr. has made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Karski. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison? Karski?
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed 7-0. Now item 31.
Item 31 is a new 2013-14 retail malt beverage license for Hy-Vee Incorporated Hy-Vee Food Store Number 2, 4101 South Louise Avenue with conditional use permit 2008-53 being approved on June 4th, 2008. Item 32 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for the Feisty Fighters to be operated at Landscape Garden Center, 7201 South Minnesota Avenue for Sparkle and Shine on November 19th, 2013.
Jamie, welcome.
Thank you. Jamie Palmer with licensing. Item 31 is a license request for the purpose of serving and educating customers in a clubroom setting. And item 32 is a special one-day request. It's in its third year of occurring. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Move approval, Rolfing.
Thank you, Councilor Rolfing.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Rolfing has made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 33.
Item 33 is deferred action from the City Council meeting of October 1st, 2013. Second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2013-77 to Chapter 160.446, Planned Development Districts at northwest corner of West 85th Street and Southwestern Avenue, amending the Three Fountains Plaza Planned Development District regulations and sub-area map. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening. I'm Mike Cooper with City Planning and Building Services. We have a number of items tonight that were considered by the City Planning Commission. This particular item is being submitted by Joel Dykstra, representing RMB Associates. The property in question tonight is on the northwest corner of West 85th Street and Southwestern Avenue. The purpose of the request tonight is to amend a zoning plan, a zoning land use plan that dates back to 2008, currently called the Three Fountains Plaza Planned Development District. The applicant is proposing to make these changes that would allow future development of office, commercial, multifamily, and single-family development. And in order to kind of simplify this as much as possible, we have an overlay that shows, let's go one more. Here we go. Essentially what we're doing is we're amending what used to be called sub-areas A, E, and F, which originally allowed mixed-use zoning with multifamily above the first floor of commercial or office. And we're amending that to make it all multifamily residential. So that's kind of in the center portion of this proposed 21 acres of amendments. On the south side of the development, adjacent to 85th Street and Western Avenue, we're keeping it fairly similar to what it currently is, which would allow either office or commercial. And those are shown on the exhibit. And then as you go up north along Western Avenue, again, the original concept was to have the mixed use, what we call vertical, two-story buildings with retail office and then an upper level of multifamily. And again, that would be changed to multifamily residential. And then on the west side, there would continue to be a buffer of residential zoning, which would be primarily single-family or townhomes. So the real change that we're asking you to consider tonight is that back in 2008, this was a development that was worked through the neighborhood, worked through the Planning Commission, that would allow more of a village mixed-use concept, again with the multifamily above the office and retail. And the developer, the applicant that's presenting the change tonight, is going to request this change because they feel that the market for this area really would not justify or would not support the current 2008 plan, and that they believe a better plan, a more realistic plan, is to go with the changes that are being proposed so that the buildings would be separated by only multifamily and then only office or residential, or office or retail. And I think we also have in your exhibits an example of what's being proposed. In the center would be 7 three-story buildings of multifamily residential, surrounded by parking, open space, as well as some community facilities. And then to the south of that would be the office and retail buildings that would also serve this neighborhood. And then to the west and northwest would be the residential of townhomes, or Z-lots as they're called, and then they'll transition farther to the west to more single family. So there's going to be 3 rows of lots on that west side that would buffer the existing single family residential that's in the area. As we heard at the Planning Commission, and also I've had a chance to meet with the neighbors to the west primarily and south, they have 2 primary concerns with this amendment. One is losing that mixed-use vertical village concept that was approved back in 2008. They would like to see that retained for their area. And then also the concern of the center portion of the 7 buildings that would be all strictly multifamily residential. The Planning Commission obviously has made a recommendation for approval of the amendments to change the land use configuration. The concept that's being proposed tonight is similar to one that's out on east side of Sioux Falls along Sycamore, north of 57th Street. These are the 3-story buildings with the community facilities. And in the background, you can see that there is single-family residential adjacent to this property. So this is the concept that the current developer is asking you to consider tonight, and this is what the neighbors to the west are primarily concerned about. There is a major difference in elevation from west of this development to where the multifamily uses would be, and I think the applicant is going to be able to explain that in more detail. So with this major amendment, we're reconfiguring the allowed land uses. And then because it is still a planned development designation, prior to any final building permits, every building or every phase of this development would have to come back through for what we call a final development plan. And that would be another public hearing before the Planning Commission to provide more detailed building elevations, landscaping, signage, all the things that we would require as part of the zoning ordinance. The staff recommendation to the Planning Commission had also been for approval. In our comprehensive plan, we do look at these major intersections, such as 85th and Western, to provide a variety of land uses that would transition. Typically, the corners would be more higher uses such as office, retail, and then it would transition into office or multifamily, and then more single-family, lower density residential. So this, in our recommendation, even though it's a change in the configuration, it does provide for similar uses to what is in the 2008 plan. But again, tonight you'll be able to hear from the developer why they don't believe that mixed-use concept is realistic, and also from the surrounding neighborhood why they have concerns about what the major amendment would allow for the future development. So with that, I'll just stop, and if you have questions for me, and we have both the proponents and opponents here to speak on this item tonight.
Mike, thank you. This is a second reading, so as Mike said, you do have an opportunity to engage the council and the people of Sioux Falls on this topic. Is there anybody who wanted to speak on this particular topic? Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And I also appreciate all of the work that you have all done in consideration of this application. It's been before the council for some time. We had a deferral. We had a couple of...
Joel, can I ask you, can you just introduce yourself to the people?
Thank you. I will. My name is Joel Dykstra, 404 East 77th Street. I represent R&B Associates and Prairie Hills Plaza, LLC, both of which are owned by Robin Miriam Broin, and who are the applicants in this today. Thank you. We have been working on this for some time. Prairie Hills Plaza LLC was acquired by R&B some years ago from another group of investors in a couple of transitions. There was a previous plan that, as planning staff and as Mike has indicated, it was approved by the council at that time. Before that, there was another plan that was approved by another council that was mostly, I believe, single-family houses to the corner. And before that, there was previous zoning, which was agricultural. So this process is one of the property evolving and seeking a viable development project that fits with, along with the development of the city in that part of town. So as the years have gone by, things have changed, and the city has grown in this direction. 85th Street and Western have become very major thoroughfares and important streets in our city. So tonight, I'm bringing you this application. Really what we are seeking to do is consolidate and simplify those 6 previous sub-areas with many of the same uses, but consolidating them down to 3 more simplified sub-areas. At the present time, in the previous suggestion or idea, there was this kind of horizontal line dividing the commercial uses from some of the residential uses. That is a concept that I am daily faced with in one of our other buildings, where we have a surplus of commercial space on the ground floor and 2 floors of apartments above my office. We have great difficulty matching those uses within the same buildings. In the plan we propose, instead, we have those same uses, commercial, office, retail, and residential, but we're dividing them with vertical lines instead, so that the commercial offices are segregated, or the commercial buildings and office buildings are segregated from the residential uses. More importantly, I think we're providing in this plan a significant buffer between the multifamily area, which has been the part of this plan that has really drawn the most specific opposition, and the single-family uses that already exist further to the west. If you look at the map, you'll see we've drawn in the Z lots as single-family housing. That's land that's part of our property, and we plan to develop that at the appropriate time. Beyond that are the South Canton Lane that you see on that map. is not property that we own, but is currently and will continue to be zoned for single-family housing as well. There is some obvious relief in this area. To those of you who've been out there, you've seen it's a very significant hill that rises to the west. And the houses that are occupied, and some of the people that I believe will share their views with you tonight, are living actually the next street up from South Canton Lane, which is Ridgestone Drive. And if, Jason, if we can go to the last, this cross-section here, I think it's significant to show that that ground level up on the Ridgestone area is actually kind of above the eave height, or the rain gutters of the highest of the multifamily houses that we propose on the other plan. So really, with that buffering and those 3 rows of single-family houses between the houses that are already there and the project that we propose to develop, you're looking at a significant amount of screening and buffering as called for in the city's zoning regulations. You know, and what's important about this change is not really the mere shift from the aesthetics. You can create zoning, you can ask for certain things to be part of the zoning provisions, but you can't make them happen unless there are people who are willing to actually invest dollars in making those developments take place. What I'm proposing, what we're offering here is under this new plan, is a project that we know can be successful. We know there is a market for these kinds of units, and we know that that market is from young professionals and other people who represent a key demographic in the growth of Sioux Falls. We're involved in another project over at 54th and Sycamore, the one that you've seen the pictures of here tonight, which has been very successful and continues to achieve a very high level of occupancy as those buildings become available.
Joel, can I ask you, we're at 5:43.
Okay.
But don't leave, please, because I know that the council is going to have questions of you.
That's fine.
So if you just stay tight, I'd appreciate that. I am going to go to other parties, and then we'll probably bring you back.
I mean, I'm here to provide answers, and I'm happy to stay. I'll be here for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Folks, anybody else who wants to engage the council on this topic, welcome.
Hi, my name is Tammy Weak, and I live on Ridgestone Drive, and I'd like to respectfully request that you not approve the major amendment that is being proposed. My neighbors and I do not feel that apartments are the right fit for our neighborhood. In 2005, when I wanted to build a new home in Sioux Falls, I did my homework and I found a neighborhood that was zoned for single-family homes from Western Avenue to Meredith Avenue and from 85th Street down to Bitterroot. With good faith, I built the first home in the center of this neighborhood and expected to be surrounded by single-family homes one day, as it was zoned. A few years later, a new developer, Site 2, purchased the undeveloped land in my neighborhood and proposed a zoning change that includes the 21-plus acres we are talking about this evening. From single-family homes to a village concept that would be part of a mixed-use plan development. The neighbors were initially leery of the extreme zoning change, and we expressed our concerns to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission at that time listened to our concerns, and we were encouraged to compromise with Site 2 to come up with a plan that was acceptable to all parties, because this type of development was encouraged at that time by the 2015 plan, and I believe is still encouraged by the 2035 plan. After several meetings and many hours of hard work, the current zoning for 3 Fountain Plaza was created. During this compromise, several single-family homes were added back to the plan to help preserve the original nature of the neighborhood. And at the heart of this planned development was a market area with small to medium-sized shops and restaurants on the pedestrian level, with the possibility of an office or a living unit above. A large plaza was to be at the center of the shops for neighbors to gather and enjoy outdoor music, dining, or viewing art and sculpture. Now, a new developer, R&B Associates, has purchased the land and wants to make a major change to the zoning that was agreed upon 6 years ago and change the mixed-use area that was to be a walking destination for the neighbors of Prairie Hills to an RA1 zone and put 7 three-story apartment buildings there instead. I have gone door to door throughout the Prairie Hills neighborhood telling my neighbors about this proposed change, and every single one of them that I talked to was against it. We actually have 110 signatures from neighbors supporting our being here against this proposal. When we expressed our concerns about this major amendment to the Planning Commission in August, several interesting comments were made, and some of them we found alarming. We were told that the only way to assure our control over a piece of property in Sioux Falls was to buy it. First of all, I've never seen a for sale sign on this particular piece of property, and the current owner, R&B Associates, actually purchased it not once but twice with the current zoning in place. Secondly, my neighbors and I do not have $3 million or whatever the price would be to buy this land, even if it were for sale. We are the little guys, and that's why we are here asking you, the members of City Council, for help tonight. We put our life savings into building our homes in what we thought was an ideal neighborhood, and now that reality is being threatened. We were told by the Planning Commission that R&B Associates bought the land and they expected to make a living on it, and that the economy has changed. But yet I see regular articles in the paper and on the news about the record building permits in Sioux Falls for both commercial development and single-family homes. And there are currently more than 40 homes under construction in Prairie Hills alone. We were told that the corner of 85th and Western, though it was zoned for single-family residential at one time, that this was no longer realistic. But if you look at what is currently on the corner of 85th and Western, the southwest corner has only single-family homes. The northeast corner has single-family, twin, and quad-family homes, as well as a daycare on it. And the southwest corner will have all single-family homes, with the exception of 4 acres of commercial at the very corner of 85th and Western. But perhaps the most disturbing of all things that was said to us that night was this, and I'm quoting one of the commissioners now. Until something is actually built and you are building your home, things will always change. Unless you can see it right there and it is under construction, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen until it's constructed, unquote. I worry that if that's the official message of the Sioux Falls city leaders, how can anyone ever feel safe building a home anywhere in Sioux Falls unless you are the very last home to be built in an already established neighborhood? In summary, I'd like to stress that my neighbors and I are the little guys looking to you for protection for our neighborhood. The neighborhood we envisioned when we built our homes here, and the neighborhood we still hope to live in someday. The Sioux Falls City Council set a precedent in the past of doing the right thing for homeowners of Sioux Falls. 8 years ago, the Sioux Falls City Council stopped 3-story apartments from going up on the northeast corner of 85th and Western, which is right across the street from where we are talking tonight. The council's decision was based on too much of a discrepancy in density between 3-story apartments and the single-family rural homes along the south side of 85th Street. Those same single-family rural homes are still there, and now there are many more single-family homes surrounding them. I ask you to please do the right thing again for the homeowners of Prairie Hills and the other neighbors surrounding this intersection. If you can't vote no tonight, please at least think about deferring this to consider it in a little more detail of everything that you'll hear tonight. Thanks.
Tammy, very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Council, just so you know, Joel had 545 and Tammy had 550.
Oh.
Okay, just so you
Sorry.
know. Trying to treat everybody fairly.
I had to write it out or I would have
Very
stumbled.
good. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on behalf? Please, welcome. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Marsha Ruff. I live on 7516 South Ridgestone Drive. Joel Dykstra has made it clear that there was no compromising with the neighbors. We had one meeting with him last summer where we were told that we told him that we did not want apartments. He said that we would have another meeting to talk about it, but that meeting never happened until Shape Sioux Falls was deferred. The funny thing is when Shape Sioux Falls zoning went through, the zoning was changed for apartments, just like Mr. Dykstra wanted. Only after Shape Sioux Falls was deferred and the zoning was back to the original plan development did he have another meeting with us. Again, he also did not compromise. The meeting was only a formality. Mayor Huther, you always talk about wanting to keep people in Sioux Falls. How about the people who have invested their lives and saved their money and worked hard for years in this town just so they can afford to build a home in a nice neighborhood of their choosing? Don't you also want to retain those people who want to live in a good single-family neighborhood? Is it only the people who would move into these apartments who you want? I mean, you have to think about the rest of us too. It's not just trying to build. We searched long and hard for the perfect lot in the best neighborhood that we could afford. That's the American way. Now it is being proposed to be forever changed by a developer who bought the land at a premium cost. It was zoned for retail, commercial, and residential, and now he's trying to recoup his investment by building apartments which are high density and making the neighborhood the cost of his mistake. In any other venue, a poor business decision hurts the one who made it. It should not be absorbed by the neighborhood. 3 Fountain Plaza could have been a place to be proud of. Now this area is proposed to be yet another apartment complex. 3 Fountains Plaza retail proposal would have been a destination for everyone in the neighborhood. That is what all the people who surround this neighborhood expected when they moved there. I, in fact, walked through all the neighborhood down below in Waterstone and Heather Ridge, in Arbor Hills, and all the acreages, and they've all signed the petition because they don't want to have high-density apartments. They want to have somewhere where they can go and build as a community. Why do you think there's been so much growth here in the southern part of Sioux Falls? It's because it's a nice place to move, and once you have the money to build there, it's a really wonderful neighborhood, but you have to work hard to get there. If this major amendment passes, word will get out and people are not going to want to build single-family homes any longer in Sioux Falls. Who wants to take the risk? I know people in Grand Prairie, Heather Ridge, and acreages across 85th Street and in my own neighborhood who will never build in Sioux Falls again because they can't trust anyone anymore. They cannot buy property to build a home and expect level-headed zoning in the adjacent land. Not only are covenants a quaint idea because they cannot be upheld in your neighborhood, but now zoning in established neighborhoods is also considered to be proven a fallacy. I think that many of the people who move away from Sioux Falls to a city, these people will move away from Sioux Falls to a city which is planned properly long term, not just changed year by developers' whim and investors' hunger for money. These developers hurt neighborhoods. They just don't hurt the neighborhoods where they live. They go somewhere else. If this proposition was in their neighborhoods, they wouldn't want it either. When deciding where to live, how can we have even imagined that this neighborhood would have 7 3-story apartment complexes with 180-some units? For us, there will be an enormous change in population density with an added demographically transient nature to our neighborhood. No matter how pretty the building is, if this major amendment passes, it will be telling the people of Sioux Falls never to trust their city and never to build a home that you have saved and worked hard for unless it is surrounded already by existing structures. Isn't it also the duty of the City Council to protect the people of Sioux Falls who elected them? If you aren't there to protect the current residents of Sioux Falls, who can we turn to? We went, as you know, door to door, and the consensus of all the people in the neighborhood who signed our petition was that they wanted a neighborhood destination and absolutely do not want high-density apartments in their place. City Councilman, it is time you make a stand. The city is going in a wrong direction and is becoming uglier and more transient with each intersection that gets changed by the developers. We are on a path of losing the allure of this town by continuing to interject these apartment complexes and big box stores into established Sioux Falls neighborhoods. Build them farther out and let the city come to them. I realize that you look at things in terms of transitions like buffers, heights of buildings, and traffic patterns and the like. But for a moment, take a look at what is really happening to the demographics of our neighborhood. You can't really see what this development will actually look like just by looking whether there's enough buffer or good traffic flow and how high the buildings are. Here's the real impact to the neighbors of this neighborhood. I'm going to show you right here what the impact is.
And Marsha, just so you know, you're at 546 right now.
These are the people who are going to be living in these apartments. This is only one person per apartment. This is if the people have a roommate in half of those apartments. That's how many people there are. This is how many more people if all of the people have roommates in those apartments. These are the people who will move in and out on a yearly basis that we will never know and that could care less about our neighborhood because they can just move to the next apartment complex. So you're taking the choice away from established neighbors and you're taking the choice away from Sioux Falls residents. Thank you.
Marsha, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Folks, is there anybody else who wanted to speak on this particular item? Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Olsen. I live at 2409 West 85th Street, along with my wife, Joyce. I'm going to take just a little different spin on the whole issue, tell you a little bit about my background. I'm a retired Sioux Falls police captain. I did 25 years with the police department. My last 2 years on the police department, I commanded the detective division. For 7 years before that, I commanded the patrol division. And prior to that, I commanded the crime prevention unit, as well as worked in a variety of other sections on the police department. I tell you that so you understand I have at least some firsthand knowledge of potential problems as they relate to law enforcement and neighborhoods regarding high-density apartment complexes. In the Sioux Falls Police Department, as in I think law enforcement agencies everywhere, we commonly see a higher incidence of crimes as it relates to apartment complexes. Crimes such as assaults, sex crimes, burglaries, thefts, vandalisms, drug and alcohol offenses, traffic offenses, including reckless driving and DWI offenses or drunk driving offenses. In the apartment complex areas, in addition to higher numbers of potential offenders living there, we also have higher numbers of potential victims living there and living in the surrounding area. More targets of opportunity, if you will, exist in an apartment complex. Unfortunately, as it affects our neighborhood, much of this spreads into the surrounding neighborhood as people are coming and going to that apartment complex, whether they be residents or potential criminal enterprises. I would just mention, and very unfortunately for Sioux Falls, not more than about 3 weeks ago, we hit all the major national news networks with the unfortunate incident dealing with Minnesota Vikings Adrian Peterson's son's death. That offense occurred in a 3-story apartment complex about a mile from the land we're talking about tonight. My wife and I have lived here for 21 years in our current location. We're immediately to the south of this proposed zoning change. When we moved there, we were looking for a quiet residential area, single-family homes, some larger lots. It was an acreage at the time we moved there. Looking for a safe area, some nice views and a nice serene setting, which is what we had. I know that all the neighbors in the area west of the proposal, some of which you've heard from tonight. Of course, we're looking for the exact same scenario as my wife and I were. My wife and I, when we moved there 21 years ago, did our homework before moving into the area. I knew Steve Metley through work. I talked with Steve a couple of times. Steve was the city planner at the time. Steve envisioned single-family homes across the road from me to the north, with probably a small area of commercial and retail, probably right on that immediate corner of 85th and Western. I know our neighbors, in hearing from them tonight and in talking with them, also did their research. Many of the neighbors also, I think, still have copies of the lot layouts in this area showing virtually all single-family homes in the area that we're talking about tonight. In the 21 years that I've lived here, we've been through this a number of times with different developers in areas very near here. Approximately 8 to 10 years ago, I think we dealt with the Van Buskirk companies on the northeast corner of 85th and Western. Very similar scenario to what we have tonight. Their proposal dealt with a number of apartments over there. It was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. The City Council that evening, when we came to this stage, took a stand and defeated that and turned it around. We went back to work. Had some very constructive negotiations with the Van Buskirk companies. They changed their plans. We found something everybody could live with, and it was approved. Still dealing with some apartment buildings, but at a lower level. As it turns out, the Van Buskirk company then changed their mind and never did build those apartments in that location. So with all that, I simply ask the council to consider our concerns, preserve the integrity of our neighborhood that we've bought into, and I would really ask that you deny this proposal tonight. Thank you.
Thomas, thank you very much, and thank you for your service to our city as well. Thank you. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council on this topic? Welcome. And folks, if there's others after this gentleman, if you just wouldn't mind just coming up, we'd appreciate that. Welcome, sir. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. My name is Dan Brentro, 7420 South Ballymore Circle, which is just off to the northwest of this. I think I'm the youngest of my neighbors here tonight, the most recent to buy. All of my neighbors that I've talked to bought long before this project was envisioned, long before it was rezoned for an urban village. I bought my lot last year at a time when it was still zoned for an urban village. I too did my homework, and I too expected to have a public gathering space and a retail space at the corner of 85th and Western. I too was surprised to find out that was being changed. It was being changed not in a way that any other change had been proposed at this corner before, but instead of involving the neighborhood, compromising and finding a way for everybody to participate in what the development would look like, it was being proposed as a unilateral change without the input and actually against the wishes of the neighbors. What I think is most concerning about this, in addition to being a surprise for everybody's land use expectations, is the loss of public space. If you could switch back to the part that shows the seven apartment buildings. Prior to this plan, the urban village had a plaza in it. Surrounded by mixed-use space. It doesn't have to be residential on the top floor. It could be commercial and retail, any kind of mix. Surrounding a plaza, in about that same spot where that plaza appears on this map. The problem, though, is that this plaza is the R&B Plaza. This is Rob Broyne's plaza, available to his 182 occupants of his apartment buildings. It's not available to the public at large. It takes this plan takes a public space and removes it from availability. It takes a public market space and removes that from availability. Creates instead just a ring of commercial that's accessible by car and a pool and green space that's only available to private residents. This is not what the 2035 plan says we should do. First of all, the 2035 plan says that if we have the opportunity for vertical mixed-use development, like is existing now, it is strongly encouraged, and we should follow it, unless they can show that it's infeasible. And they have not shown that Mr. Dykstra is only talking about one building that he has at 57th and Cliff that he can't rent the spaces on the main floor. That's not proof that you cannot do mixed use, vertical use development. But if we switch to horizontal mixed use like he wants to do, again, the 2035 plan tells us what to do. It says, policy number 4, provide one major public space, meaning every time that we take a large area of land and segment it into other areas or types of uses, meaning residential in one part and commercial in the other, we are to provide development incentives for each horizontal mixed-use development to provide at least one major public space, such as a plaza, park, town square, or other public gathering space. These spaces should also be designed and located for substantial public use. They should include a significant public amenity, such as a water feature or public art. There is nothing like that in this plan. What we're doing is taking the only green space, the only public space within any distance of my house, and turning it over to a bunch of residents that we will never know, in an area that we will never be allowed to go into because it's trespassing to enter that ring there and participate in that private space. One of the things that I heard from a couple of you counselors as we approached you over the last couple of months is, you better thank your lucky stars this isn't Walmart going in. I understand that it's not Walmart, and I'm thanking my lucky stars that it's not, but this is actually the opposite of Walmart. What we told those residents when we approved the Walmart to go in across at 85th in Minnesota was that you did not have any reasonable expectation that it would be anything other than a Walmart going in across the street from you, because it was zoned agriculture. It could be annexed at any time and turned into a Walmart. They had no reasonable expectation of anything else. My neighbors and I had exactly the opposite expectations. My neighbors participated fully and thoroughly in a compromise discussion in 2005, 6, and 7 to figure out what would go on this space. What everybody agreed to was vertical mixed-use development, and everybody agreed. Nobody even opposed it at the city council meeting. When I bought my land a year ago, my reasonable expectations were that this would not turn into this. This corner would not turn into a private enclave with a ring, small ring of commercial on the edge. My expectations were that it would be a public space of some sort. Now, I don't know what the solution is, but it seems to me that this is not the right solution. This is the only set of 3-story buildings within 1.5 miles of here. It's the wrong height for buildings. It's the wrong density. I think the solution is either to limit it to 2 stories and require mixed use, or send the developer and the residents back to discuss this and work out a compromise. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Folks, anybody else want to speak on this particular item? Well, very good. Thank you. And don't leave. There's a good chance that the council will want to engage you as well. Council, I'm not going to leave it in your hands. Great, great comments tonight. Councilor Jameson.
If I could have Mike Cooper help answer maybe a question or two. First off, I'd like to recognize to the council that Mike Cooper spent a couple hours on Saturday visiting with the neighbors, trying to listen to their concerns, and I think that's over and above the call of duty, so I want to thank him for doing that. Mike, the last speaker talked about that policy number 4, the public space swap out. Can you address that or clarify that for me?
Sure. When we talk about public space, it's not necessarily publicly owned space, but space that can be accessible to the general public. And again, with this proposal, the multifamily is going to be primarily a private open spaces around there with the parking. But as you look to the south, where the proposed office and retail is still being recommended and proposed, there's still an opportunity there for public gathering spaces, whether it's going to be a bar, a restaurant, whatever it might be, there's still that opportunity. So although it is a change from the current Three Fountains Plaza village concept, there's still an opportunity, maybe on a more limited scale, of how those particular areas could develop. So that's what I would say that is still an opportunity, as the neighborhood could work with the developer on those final development plans.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions? Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Yeah, Mike, go ahead and stay right there, I guess. Can you talk about the buffers that are going to be between this development and the neighborhood?
Can we go to the aerial? We're going to show the aerial photo. The folks that we've heard from tonight are primarily along Ridgestone Drive, if Jason can outline that. That's a row of existing single-family residential. And then to the east of that, there'll be 3 more rows of single-family lots prior to the multifamily or the retail office land uses. The northeast corner is already an existing office development area, so that's already a kind of a built-in buffer. And then across to the east, as you heard tonight from Mr. Olsen, that's a combination of office and residential to the east. So back to your question, Councilor, from the folks that live along the east side of Ridgestone Drive, there'll be 3 rows of single-family lots stepping down, following the train before you get to this Three Fountains Plaza development.
If I may.
Please continue,
And
Councilor.
then to the south, with our current zoning rules, how should that play out there?
Yeah. On the south is a rural residential area that began many, many years ago. And so most likely that's going to stay pretty much the way it is because of the way that those lots were developed a number of years ago. In the southeast corner, that has been approved for that transition of commercial or office and then going into more lower density residential.
Okay, so what I'm saying though is, but the property directly to the south there, is there any type of buffers there that are going to be there, or is that just going to be the commercial development that will be done on the corner?
Just on the corner, yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Councilor Ruffing.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. I've been around and torn. I wish there was a way we could tell you people to get locked in a room and come out, you know, and when you get done, when you open the door, then come out. Joel, I heard not a rumor, but I think you said or somebody told us that these people had agreed to two-story apartments rather than 3-story. Is that correct? At one time?
Councilman Ruffin, the current zoning, the current plan, the old plan, was for 2-story units, 2-story buildings up to a maximum height of 45 feet. What we're proposing is to keep that maximum height the same, but to make it 3-story. So to provide a 3-story unit that's basically the same profile, same height as the current plan.
Okay. I wish we could get you guys back in a room and do this so it didn't have to come down to us or nobody's going to like us one way or another. But, and I would like to think that we could do that. I don't know if anybody else would like to postpone this to make them do that. But can we, would you be willing to do that? If we gave you another
Well,
2
Councilman,
weeks?
it would be very, I would be very cautious about how I respond to that. But I would tell you that this ideal of compromise between the people who own the land and are willing to invest in a development and people who live 3 and 5 blocks away, it might sound good, but in fact, there's at least as much intransigence on the other side. What I'm hearing in closed meetings and what I've heard from other people is no apartments. We don't like apartment people. And frankly, I know from in the case of the market here, in the case of employment needs in Sioux Falls, the workforce requirements that we have in Sioux Falls. This is a needed concept. It's a needed kind of housing. And in fact, you know, the particular project which we're proposing is very high quality. It appeals to high earners. It's the kind of people that I would like to live next to. And if you remember, we were here a year ago. We were here a year ago with a similar kind of zoning issue around my neighborhood in Grand Prairie.
Joel, I'm going to have to stop you because
Thank you.
There was a question that was asked.
I apologize.
You answered it, but I need you to stop there because you're kind of getting back into
Any
your
more
original.
questions?
So thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Is that okay, Councilor Rolfing?
Yes, that'll be fine for now.
Thank you, Councilor Erpenbach.
I have a question that I don't think Joel can answer it. Maybe Mike can. This is sort of historical. How many units would have been in the Site 2 plan, do we know, in terms of
I think roughly
residential?
50. Does that sound right? 41. Between 40 and 50.
in that mixed-use
Yes.
residential, commercial-ish thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, Councilor Jameson, please.
This is a difficult corner for me. These people are my neighbors. And we spent a lot of time developing this Three Fountain Plaza as a family and a development company. It's a cool concept, very cool. And I can appreciate what the neighbors have hoped for and what we hoped for. It's even encouraged in the 2035 plan. I mean, it's what we should strive for as a diverse community. It helps to break up high-density areas. It promotes a neighborhood concept, even the village concept. I think it's a real good design. I'd like to see it fulfilled. I know it's difficult, but I support this concept. I'd ask you to support it as well, because if we don't do it now, we don't do it here, where will we ever do it? This is the first chance we've had to complete or get a village concept done that I know of, and at the first chance we're folding up and giving in. So I'm a little attached to this corner maybe, but either way, I think it's a great concept for Sioux Falls, and I'd encourage your support to keep it as is.
Oh, yes. Councilor Karski, please.
Mr. Cooper, if you don't mind. The way it is currently zoned, is it zoned as a planned development? Or
Yes.
It is.
And it would continue to be a planned development, yes.
Okay. And under the planned developed concept that it's currently zoned at, it has to stay with the concept as it's outlined with the mixed use? There's no deviating from that? It has to stay that way?
Unless it's amended, yes.
Okay.
Unless it goes through an amendment process.
So those buildings couldn't be changed to all apartments, two-story apartments?
Not without an amendment, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Aguilar.
Director Cooper, do we have any other developers that are looking at doing this type of concept?
The University Hills development, which is up along the North Marion Road area, west of the University Center, is one that was approved also with kind of this mixed-use concept. There's currently an apartment building underway out there now. You approved diagonal parking, but whether they go to the level of actually putting up a building with vertical mixed use is still to be determined. That has not been done yet.
Thank you.
Well, Council, thank you for the dialogue. Very good questions. Great public testimony. Thank you as well. Council, does anybody want to make a motion? This is a second reading. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Move to approve Erpenbach.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Erpenbach has made a motion to approve item 33, with seconded by Councilor Karski. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, there's just one thing I'd like to mention about this project, and that is something that we don't always emphasize here in Sioux Falls like we should, and that's the issue of property rights. This is owned by the company that Joel works for, and they have a good project. Unfortunately, not everybody agrees with their project, but it is their property. And primarily for that reason, I think we should be voting for this, sustaining property rights here in Sioux Falls.
Very good, Council. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
No.
Karski,
No.
It is passed 5-2. Item 34.
Item 34 is deferred action from the City Council meeting of October 1st, 2013, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at East Dyke Drive and North Quarry Avenue from the Granite Valley Plan Development District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, petition number 2013-815, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by Jim Dunham on behalf of the proposed development for a speedy delivery service. This is part of the Granite Valley Plan Development Area. It's up along North Cliff Avenue, north of Interstate 90. This property is just under 2.5 acres in size. To the west is vacant, well, for future commercial development. On the north side is an existing detention pond area. To the east is existing industrial development. And then to the northeast is the existing single-family development area. With this proposed rezoning, we would be changing it from commercial to light industrial. And again, the proposed use of this property would be for the relocation of the speedy delivery service, which is just to the south of this area. They've outgrown their existing business site, and they would like to stay in this general vicinity with a larger building layout. Because this use would be within 300 feet of existing single-family residential, if the zoning does get approved by the council tonight, a conditional use permit would still be required to go through a public hearing for the proposed truck delivery service. There has been questions raised by some of the neighbors about noise and buffering and traffic. The applicant has met with some of the neighbors, and he is here tonight to give you a report on some of those discussions. But again, with that conditional use, we can put in conditions for buffering and landscaping that would go a long ways toward mitigating concerns about noise and visual connectivity. So tonight you're being asked to consider rezoning it from commercial land uses to the light industrial land use as part of this Granite Valley development area. And this has also been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mike. Again, it's the second reading, folks. Would anybody want to speak on this particular item? Welcome.
Jim Dunham and Associates, 3220 South Western Avenue. Thank you for letting me plug my new company. First I lost my hair, now I'm losing my vision. Thank you for hearing our application tonight. We did have a neighborhood meeting on October 23rd in the Granite Valley Edition. We had one neighbor attend, Bud Van Bakken. His concerns were the noise. As it claimed he had heard a radio playing approximately 7 times over the 10 years that Speedy has been a neighbor to the south of him, and the fact that they were building a larger building, meaning there would be more trucks and more activity on the site. A Speedy representative from St. Cloud did attend the meeting and spoke on the issues. They immediately agreed to eliminate the use of any radios on the property itself, and they currently do not allow radios in their trucks, so that's already not the issue. Their need for a larger facility is the fact that the current facility was built for 15 trucks, and they have 21 vans. They see that over the next 4 years, at most, they'd add 1 or 2 more trucks because really this area for them and the routes that they can have is already maxed out. So they claim that there's very additional business that they could bring to this building. But what this would do, the larger facility would allow them to keep all their vehicles inside, to service the vehicles inside, to wash them inside, which all these activities are currently outside just because they had a very small site and a slightly smaller building. We did discuss things at the neighborhood meeting like lighting, landscaping buffers, and when we presented the plan that's on the screen, there was no landscape buffer to the east, which is where the neighbors are. So we have submitted a new plan to the city and to the neighbors that does show a berm and trees on top to create a buffer for noise and visual to this building. Also, what came up was the hours of speed delivery. Speedy Delivery operates, their arrivals come at 6 to 9:30 in the morning, and they depart at 5 to 9 o'clock at night. On Tuesday through Saturday, they do have one van that drives up from Sioux City, pulls inside the building, the driver gets out, gets in his personal vehicle, and goes home. They have 3 trucks that arrive Saturday morning. We had a great neighborhood meeting. Bud Van Bakkeren, who you're about to meet, is a friend of our family and a great individual. This is a couple comments and I'll be done. This is similar to what we did to the south of this site. It was owned industrial, and C4 commercial. We rezoned it to industrial to allow for inland truck parts to do a similar situation. The applicant is willing in the final development phase to establish limitations and stipulations to make sure the neighbors are as happy as possible. With that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else want to speak on this particular item? Welcome.
My name is Bud Van Bakkeren. I live at 5701 North Gold Nugget Avenue. First of all, I want to thank you for hearing our concerns up there. Thank you, Mayor and Council. And we have a few. I've got some people here from the development, if you want to stand up or wave or whatever, to let you know that there are people that, and I'm just going to kind of speak for the development tonight. And then I have some signed petitions that I went around. This first one here, there's 14 of them, and these particular are all around the pond. If you go back to the overhead view where it shows the water, basically it goes up Gold Nugget and down 67th, and these folks on this one are all the ones that I felt were the most affected by it because they would see it, they would hear it, it would be in their sight of view and noise and so on. And then these are from some of our neighbors that I just went around that were on the other side of the street that, you know, kind of wanted to stand with us on behalf of if they lived where we did, they wouldn't want this to happen either. So I think there's a total of 25. And I could have got more. I just felt those were the ones that were most relevant to our situation. You know, first of all, as a neighborhood, when we built there and bought there, that land is zone C4, and we knew that. We have other C4 stuff that's by us, and they're great neighbors, Arctic Ice, and the garbage service works well. They're closed in the evenings, they're closed on the weekends, they come in at a fairly reasonable time and they're usually gone by supper time. And so it's been a great working relationship between that C4 and our neighborhoods. And so we as a neighborhood would like to not have this rezoned to I-1 because we don't feel that I-1 fits what's going on up there. We would like to have it stay C4. I guess, unfortunately, I'm the one that's the closest to this development. And if you go back to where it shows the footage from the terminal, and right here it shows 260 feet from the corner of the building basically to a ravine where the water runs into the pond. And then I actually measured it 75 feet across the ravine, so it's just at that 300-foot mark from residential. But as you can see, they plan on putting a 50-foot extension, which takes 260 down to 210, and it puts it basically right at that point. And then I measured, just for the grins of it, it's another 75 feet to my bedroom window. So in 150 feet from my bedroom window, and our house is right there, is to the corner of the working lot where they'll be driving the trucks around. And one of our biggest concerns is, first of all, how close it is to our houses to have industrial. And part of that is the fact that, you know, they're diesel trucks, they're diesel vans, and it's basically a trucking firm. It's designed to truck the stuff around our community. And I'm a small businessman, and I like the fact that businesses are growing, Sioux Falls is growing, and that's a great thing. But what happens is, as Speedy continues to grow, you know, the 22 trucks they have now might become 28 trucks, which might become 30 trucks, and that's a lot of activity throughout a lot of the hours of the day to be backed up right to our homes, where if we want to be out on the deck at night barbecuing and having a meal, and they're over there loading and moving trucks around and unloading trucks and reloading trucks. We're just very concerned about the diesel smoke, the diesel smell, you know, just the activity, the trucks moving around. And my dad used to run American Freight. He was a computer programmer, so I grew up around trucking, and trucking is one of those things that's kind of a rambunctious activity, loading and unloading, and there's just a lot of noise and activity that goes along with it. And so that's a lot of our concerns, is just all that goes on in a trucking firm. And so, you know, and they operate quite a few hours. I don't know, I know at one point during the neighborhood meeting he said that there was a truck that came in at 3 a.m. and then I know there's a couple trucks that come in at 6 a.m. or right in there, because I see them as I'm going to work. And so it's not really going to give us a very good opportunity to let our neighborhood settle down like it is able to now, even though we have C4 buildings by us. And so that's some of our big concerns. You know, and we're kind of a fledgling little neighborhood. In fact, this year was a grand year for us. The mayor came up and opened up a brand new park up there. It was a great time, and the kids were there, and he told a story about playing with worms, and he encouraged all the kids to get out and push each other on the swings and run around and enjoy themselves. And that was a grand time for us up there in our development, because not a lot has happened up there since about 2005, 2006. It's kind of just dropped off. And we're really looking for the day that our development picks up and takes up and houses start getting built again. But what Speedy wants to do, or what the rezoning is kind of contrary to what we think fits our neighborhood. And for us, I think what we want to approach you guys with is, first of all, that's not the only piece of land around that they could rebuild on. There's other properties, maybe if it isn't in that development, they're around that development. Another trucking firm just built across the interstate. There's land up there. And then one of the things that got talked of, and if you can go to the next one where it shows the trees there, where see that berm and trees that they're proposing would work great if we lived in the ice house, because that basically is right to the west of the ice building. We are actually off of the corner of where the berm and trees end. And so it really isn't going to benefit us much. And so, but as a neighborhood, as all of us that enjoy living there are excited about having homes there, we just ask you guys to consider, first of all, how close it is to us to have a full-blown trucking line that runs a lot of hours during the day. They have quite a few trucks. First and foremost is there really isn't any good buffers there for us. The other thing to consider is that we have that retention pond. And as you probably know, water does not absorb sound, it bounces sound. And we feel that's going to be a huge deterrent too, as they're moving the trucks around and backing them up to the docks and just doing what a trucking firm does. We're not opposed to them, having a truck line. It's just the fact that it's so close to us. And so we would just ask that you guys would really consider the distance, some of the smells and the odors from trucks, And just consider us as neighbors, and we would ask that you'd vote no for the rezoning of this. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Bud. Thank you. Folks, anybody else want to speak on this particular item? Very good, Council. Questions, comments? Councilor Staggers?
Yes, if I could ask a question of Mike. You know, I guess my primary concern is the spillover from the noise from the trucking business to his home, for example. Do you have any insight as to the amount of noise that would be coming onto his property from there?
I don't have
decibels or anything?
Yeah, I don't have detailed knowledge of that tonight, Counselor. If we can go back to the exhibit that would kind of show the proximity to the homes. Yeah. If I were developing a site plan for this use or any use, I mean, I would put the buffering in that corner so that it does protect the neighborhood. So that would be one thing that we would probably change either with this site plan or any other future site plan that we would have to take a look at. But I can't specifically say what the decibel level is now or would be with the trucking use or with any other future commercial use. We would just have to review that on a case-by-case basis.
If I could ask one other quick question, and that is, let's suppose the decibel level goes above city ordinance. Can we just close down a company if it doesn't comply with the decibel levels, for example?
Or
until they correct the situation?
Yeah, you have to correct the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, let's start here. Basically on Robar, they already have an existing location. It appears that there are other properties up there ready to be developed. Why this location?
Again, the applicant can probably address that better than I, but for us as city planning staff, you might ask, why would you even recommend approval of this location? The commercial zoning that's there now could potentially allow 24-hour uses. That would also have to go through a conditional use permit review in most cases because of the proximity to the residential. So we said, let's take it through the hearing process, find out what the neighbors think. If it does look like it is compatible or could be made compatible through the conditional use permit review, then it might be appropriate to change it. But yeah, that whole area between Dyke Drive going down to the interstate is that transition of light industrial uses. So there are other vacant properties south of Dyke Drive that are zoned that could be accommodating for this use. But is the property owner wanting to work out a deal with the applicant? That's really something that we can't really control. But there are industrial parcels already in this area. That's no doubt about that.
If I may continue. And those industrial parcels, the businesses that operate there take great concern to make sure that their hours of operations are during like the daytime period so that they impact the least possible impact to that neighborhood. Some of those are right backed up to residentials. I've drove up there and the only thing separating them is a fence.
Right. Arctic Ice is one. And in this map, if you can see it in color, all the areas that are in blue are currently zoned for light industrial. The star shows where the applicant is requesting the change tonight. And then the rest of that land that's shown in red is existing commercial zoning.
And then to the east of, as we go through here, we're not showing that whole segment there. On the east side of the residential, that's all undeveloped area also. What is that zoned? And I
don't think we have that on there. We don't have that on our map, but it's future residential.
Okay. Yes, what I'm trying to get to here with the council is that this residential area was put in, And since they've been in there, there really hasn't been a lot of development up there. Yes, I understand change, but they've been basically almost under siege with the development of industrial to the south and maybe even proposed in the future to the east side of them, being surrounded by industrial. If this was on the south side of, what is it, Robar, I don't think I would have a problem with this. But as we grow north across Robar, where it's commercial, we're really starting to impact that neighborhood. And now that I see a design for this company with a proposed addition, this is not going to be a trucking company that's just going to stay the size they are. They are looking to grow. And I think it's going to be very difficult to control their hours of operations to lessen that impact on that residential. So I'm going to ask the council to vote against this.
Councilor Umbach.
Just a quick question. If this stayed commercial, what could be there? I mean, you said the pieces next to it are Arctic ice, and that's commercial. What's the other one?
Sanitary service.
Sanitary service. Yep. So those obviously are examples of what it could be if it were C4. What else might it be?
Well, those parcels are currently zoned light industrial.
Those are
that are built on. The ones that are vacant to the west are zoned commercial.
Okay, so all right. So the piece that we're looking at right now is zoned currently C4.
Yes.
It could be
retail services.
Could be gas station, 24-hour gas station. Could be any sorts of commercial type things like that. It's not big enough for a big box store, but it could be a grocery store, right?
It could be, yes, retail uses.
Okay. Could we, I'm sorry, could we, if we left it C4, would it still require a conditional use permit so that if, say, a grocery store did want to go in there and we could tell them, no, you have to close at 10 o'clock? That would be one of the conditions.
Because of the distance to the residential, I think just about every proposed use would have to go through a conditional use review.
Well, I just have to stand with Councilor Anderson. I'm not comfortable with this use that close to those houses. I just am not.
Councilor Karski.
Is it a common zoning practice, Mike, to put industrial that close? Do we have a lot of instances in our community where we have light industrial that close to residential?
In the newer developments, we have not done that very often. This is probably one of the major exceptions that we've done it that way. Again, historically, when the Granite Valley development area was brought to us, at that time the developers said they want to have a combination of commercial, industrial, and residential uses. So the transition between industrial and residential is not common to what we see in most of our newer development areas.
If I could follow up, when they go through the conditional use permit, if this was approved to be zoned light industrial and they sold the property, if future owners wanted to change the use, do they have to come back and go through the same process all over again?
Yes, unless it was a similar trucking type use.
Okay, so if they bought it the business as a going concern and ran it the same way, it'd be okay. Right. But if they wanted to change the scope of the operation in any way, they would have to come back.
I think in most cases, I mean, there might be such as if it was going to be used for a warehouse or storage, that probably would not require a conditional use.
Okay.
So it's.
Thank you.
I have to kind of hedge my answer to you because it may not be in every case.
Council, thank you very much. Very good dialogue. Appreciate it. And Bud and Jim, thank you as well for your comments. Really appreciate that as well. Good dialogue. We'll have a roll call vote, please.
We need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion. My apologies. Thank you.
I would move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Rolfing.
There's been a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. Is there any further discussion? There is not. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jamison?
No.
Karski?
No.
That has failed 1-6. Item 35.
Item 35 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at northeast corner of West 60th Street North and North Marion Road from the C4 Planned Commercial District to the RC Recreation Conservation District, petition number 2013-91, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. This parcel is a little over 2¼ acres in size, and the request is to rezone it to a recreation conservation. It would be developed as a drainage area in conjunction with the Walmart superstore that's currently underway up in this area.
Thank you, Mike. Another second reading, folks. Anybody interested in talking about this one? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Urbanbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Urbanbach. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson? Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 36.
Item 36 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property north of East 10th Street and east of North 6 Mile Road from the O Office District and the RS2 Residential District to the RC Recreation Conservation District, petition number 2013-93, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is an application submitted by Van Busker Companies. They are the developers of this area known as Willow Ridge Edition. And this is north of East 10th Street and east of 6 Mile Road. When the original zoning was approved for this area, it was shown as approximately 5 acres of future office land use. Now that the development is underway, there's been more engineering done, and the applicant is now asking to change those 5 acres to allow for a drainage area as well as additional residential. So we're changing it from office to recreation, conservation, and residential.
Thanks, Mike. Did anybody want to speak on this item? Council?
Move approval, Karski.
Second, Aguilar.
Karski's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Councilor Anderson Jr.
Mike, as I'm looking at this, that corner on the northeast corner that's shown in light blue, is that office or is that?
Yes,
okay.
That's office. That will stay as office right now.
So what could actually go in there besides just the office?
A
building?
professional office, dentist office, chiropractic office, insurance office, those kind of uses.
And if I may continue, along 10th Street and to the south, a lot of that property there is not annexed into the city. Are we looking at that along Arrowhead Parkway with those businesses and that?
Yeah, there's been no movement by the property owner directly to the south to request annexation or even talk about development. The Arbor's Edge is just to the east of that. So there is that gap in between that currently there's no conversations that we've had about future annexation.
The concern is with our 2 parks that we have to the east of there. Wanted to see exactly what we were thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 37.
Item 37 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property north of West 41st Street and west of South Ellis Road from the AG Agricultural District to the RD Residential District, petition number 2013-95, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
We've discussed this proposal with the applicant, Rick Dunlap, representing RBD Homes, LLC. Staff would like to get more information put together before we recommend approval of the rezoning with utilities and streets. And we've met with the applicant, and they are requesting a deferral to the December 3rd City Council.
Council, would anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to defer this to Tuesday, December 3rd, 2013.
Second Anderson.
Thank you. Councilor Karski has made a motion to defer agenda item 37 to Tuesday, December 3rd. Seconded by Councilor Jamison. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Councilmember Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 38.
Item 38 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property 1/2 mile west of North Marion Road on West Maple Street from the RS1 Residential District to the S Institutional District, RS2 Residential District, and RC Recreation Conservation District, petition number 2013-915, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This property is currently owned by the Sioux Falls School District, and we have been working with them on this development area. Currently, the Georgia McGovern Middle School is under construction. There's future land for an elementary school, park, as well as a fire station site. So this proposed rezoning tonight would provide for those different future land uses. This was zoned RS1 back when it was under the Minnehaha County jurisdiction.
Thanks, Mike. Second reading, folks. Anybody want to talk to this about this one? Council?
Move for approval.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item. It was seconded by Councilor Karski. Sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison? Karski?
Yes.
That's passed 7-0. Item 39.
Item 39 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2013-94 to Chapter 160.446 Plan Development Districts at northwest corner of West 69th Street and Southwestern Avenue, amending the Rolling Heights Plan Development District regulations. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is an application by Van Buskirk Companies, the developers of this Rolling Heights addition. This is north of West 69th Street and just west of Western Avenue. They have buildings under construction, and based on discussions with proposed tenants, they would like to add to the allowable land uses a medical office as well as on-sale and off-sale alcohol.
Second reading. Anybody interested? Very good, Council.
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second Rolfing.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 40.
Item 40 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2013-97 to Section 160.446, Plan Development Districts at the southwest corner of East 57th Street and South Sycamore Avenue, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised sub-area A boundaries and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The Village at Sycamore Plan Development District is located at the southwest corner of Sycamore Avenue and East 57th Street. Joel Dykstra, representing RMB, is the applicant. The request tonight is to amend the land use boundaries by expanding the commercial sub-area that would be allowed along 57th Street frontage and reducing the multifamily residential area. And this particular land consists of a total of about 37 acres overall.
Thanks, Mike. Would anybody want to speak to this item? Council?
Move for approval.
Second Erpenbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 41.
Item 41 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 77, Subchapter Parking Ticket Appeals.
Good
Welcome.
evening. Good evening, Darren Smith, Director of Community Development and Public Parking. This item is proposed amendment for a current ordinance to change the public parking ticket appeals process. As you know, Matt and I were here this afternoon and gave a presentation on this, so I won't go over all the details again. It is an effort to consolidate and centralize the process along with others in city government to provide more due process for citizens, and this certainly accomplishes that. There is also included a modest administrative processing fee that's associated with this amendment as well. My understanding is there will be an amendment offered tonight for $5, and we are certainly supportive of that. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Darren. It's the second reading, folks. Would anybody want to speak to this item? Council, any questions of Darren? Any motions?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Rolfing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I have
Councilor
an
Karski.
amendment to this
Thank you.
motion. I'd like to amend section 77.106 by replacing $25 with $5. The amended sentence would read, all terms and conditions for administrative appeals as provided in Chapter 30 of this code shall apply, except the processing fee shall be $5 for appeal of a parking ticket or citation.
Second, Aguilar.
Very good. There has been a motion made by Councilor Karski to amend the motion. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Any discussion? Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I got a question. I'm sorry I don't have the proposed ordinance in front of me, but it also includes increases in other areas. I mean, it includes fees in other areas. Is that right, Darren?
No, I don't believe
This
so.
is purely parking.
This is only for parking, and the only other change it does provide for is it allows 15 days to appeal a parking ticket as opposed to the current 7.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Very good.
Yep.
Council, thank you. A roll call vote, please.
And
On the
we're-
amendment.
We're voting on the amendment. Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
The amendment is passed 7-0. We now have an amended motion. Council, any more discussion? Yes, Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, on this one here, I think it's good for us to, try to encourage us, people to not be hesitant about appealing. And, well, at least we've got it down to $5. I guess my inclination is that we don't want any money being expended to appeal, no matter what it is. So I guess I'm going to vote against this.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Just a quick question for Darren, because I don't remember from this afternoon. I apologize. If somebody does appeal and they win their appeal, they get their $5 back too?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make, that was a question that was asked.
Good job. A roll call vote, Council.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 6-1. Item 42.
Item number 42 is a first reading. To set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, November 12th, 2013. First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the exchange of real property.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Tonight, this item is to facilitate an exchange of property. The graphic that's in front of you, the blue 2 parcels, are currently owned by the City of Sioux Falls. They're an asset of the Water Reclamation Facility. And the yellow is currently owned by the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. This item in exchange, 40.2 acres of city-owned property for 21.27 acres of Sioux Falls development property. To make up the gap in value, an appraisal has been established, and the Sioux Falls Development Foundation would pay the City of Sioux Falls $369,000. The intent would be to close before the end of 2013. This graphic also shows where the future Bonson Avenue would be installed. We were successful working with multiple departments to secure a grant for half the cost of that major collector road, which will really allow that industrial park of the Sioux Falls Development Foundation to really reach its full capacity. They're a natural adjacent landowner and have been a good partner with the City of Sioux Falls. One more slide just shows a close-up view. Again, this would be after the exchange would be performed, and we also tonight have Slater Barr here. If you have any questions, we would ask for your support.
Thanks, Mark. This is only a first reading. Council, any questions before we? Yes, Councilor Karski.
Just curious, why are we interested in retaining ownership of any land in that park out there?
Well, that area, just looking at the topography, is primarily drainage land. We do have a major sewer that runs through there, so it makes sense for us to retain that area that we've got. Major tributaries that you see that are in the background of that particular image makes sense for us to still retain it.
Councilor Jameson.
As well, that area that shaded yellow that would be retained by the city, is that elevation change a problem for development? I mean, it would be tough to build on that, wouldn't it?
It would be very tough to build on that. That's right.
Thank you.
We're also motivated to make this transfer because once the design, we hope to actually commence the grading and utility work for Bonson Avenue next year. The adjacent property owners will ultimately pay for that facility, of which will transfer a lot of that frontage to Sioux Falls Development Foundation, where they can market it to future industrial users.
Council, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, November 12th for this item?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Jameson's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
This passed 7-0. Item 43.
Item 43 is a first reading to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, December 17th, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. First reading, an ordinance of deferred action from the City Council meeting of 9/17/13. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at 223 North Franklin Avenue from the RD Residential District to the C2 General Commercial District, petition number 2013-82, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a proposed rezoning that was submitted by JCL Solutions. They're currently located at the northwest corner of 8th and Franklin. They're looking at a residential property to the north of them. They're still trying to decide whether or not they want to go forward with this, so they would like another deferral, requesting that to the December 3rd City Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Aguilar. Thank you, Councilor Jameson. They both made a motion and it has been seconded to defer this item to Tuesday, December 3rd. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
This passed 7-0. Item 44.
Item 44 is a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards. The member was Timothy Roty, Falls Community Health Center Board.
Council, would anybody want to make a motion?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second.
Councilor Rolfing has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
This passed 7-0. Item 45.
Item 45 is a resolution approving the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Local 519 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees.
City Council, Bill O'Toole, Human Resources Director. Items 45, 46, and 47 are the three labor agreements with the City of Sioux Falls. We are going to spread the wealth a little bit tonight. I'm going to kick off and take AFSCME, and the police chief and fire chief will follow me with those subsequent agenda items, because I know action is separate on each of those. But just real quickly, in terms of the agreement, the major highlights of the collective bargaining agreement are this. We were able to complete collective bargaining in record time as it relates to all three of these agreements. The AFSCME agreement covers approximately 480 employees, and we were able to successfully negotiate the terms of that agreement in the months of August and September in 3 meetings. It is a 3-year agreement. The financial terms of that agreement are 3% cost of living adjustment for each of those 3 years. We are pleased to be presenting you this package for a 3-year deal. The 3% cost of living adjustment really accomplishes 2 things. It's inflation-based, It's also market competitive based. And we would urge your approval of this, and I'd be happy to take any questions regarding this agreement.
Councilor Staggers?
Yes. Bill, the 3% each year comes up to 9% over 3 years. And my question is that there'll be many AFSCME members getting more than 9% over the 3 years. What I'm referring to, of course, is the various steps. So, what percentage of the AFSCME members are going to be getting more than 9% over the next 3 years because of the step issue?
You're correct, Counselor. The pay step administration program that we have for most of our employees, whether it's AFSCME or some of those other agreements as well, is that it's a 9-step pay program. And for the first 5 years, those are employees are eligible for annual or merit increases in that program. And in between steps 5 through 9, it's 24 months. I don't have the actual numbers with me to say how many are eligible for it at this particular time. But you're correct, that is how it works. The other thing that I would comment with respect to that COLA, you're right, it's 9% over those 3 years. But if we were to pull in the prior 7 years, from 16 back to 10, to try to pull in that recessionary period that we went through, I did take a look at that in terms of the average cost of living increase for each of those groups. And for AFSCME, the average increase over that 7-year period, that being 2010 through 2016, would be about 1.86% if you factor in the average over that longer period of time. But, Councilor, you're correct that the 3-year duration that you're voting on tonight is 9%.
Yes, and what's the max that somebody could possibly get during that 3-year period with all the steps and the 9% pay increase? 15%?
If I understand your
Yes.
question, let's just look at 1 year, for example. So if in 2014 a 3% COLA is in place and an individual may be eligible for step increase in that same year,
Yes.
the value of that step could be in the neighborhood of 3 to 4%.
Okay, so, and there's no likelihood that somebody would get a step every year, or am I incorrect in saying that?
Not every year. Again, for the first 5 steps of a 9-step program, they're eligible. If their performance meets satisfactory expectations, they would be eligible for a step increase. But in between steps 5 through 9, it's every other year. So it would be a 24-month waiting period.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilor, thank you. Council, would anybody want to make a motion on this resolution, or Councilor Rolfing?
Not to put the pressure on Bill or the mayor, but I'm assuming that we've done the projections on this and feel very comfortably that we can afford it financially. I just thought I would bring
Bill,
that up.
What I would say to that, Counselor, is that when we built the 2014 budget, obviously we contemplated that negotiations were still going on. Whenever we engage in the collective bargaining process, we're very in tune to things like inflation, the forecasting, the council's budget parameters as it relates to cash flow and reserve balances. We are looking at that. We are consulting with the finance department on a regular basis as we look at that. And to an extent, anybody can be confident with those projections. When you factor all that in, we were confident that package was reasonable and fair.
So Tracy was in on the negotiations, so to speak, from that standpoint all the way?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I don't mean to speak for Tracy, but yes, we consulted with Tracy the entire way.
Yeah, you consulted.
He's
Good.
not here, so
thank you. David Fifley just reminded me, is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Council, would anybody want to make a motion?
Move approval. Karski.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Erpenbach. Any further discussion? Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Just one comment, Bill, to you and your staff. Congratulations. This is quite an achievement to get all 3 of these contracts done. I just want to congratulate you and your staff. the administration for working as hard as you did to get this done as quickly as you did.
Thank you, Counselor. And it would behoove me if I didn't recognize the collective bargaining units and their leadership as well. It truly was a collaborative effort between city administration and those respective unions. It was a real can-do attitude, a lot of cooperation. Let's get it done, and things went very well. But thank you very much.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That's passed 7-0. Item 46.
Item 46 is a resolution approving the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Local Number 814 of the International Association of Firefighters.
Jim Sedaris, Fire Chief.
Chief.
And
Any comments, Chief?
any what?
Comments?
No, it went very well. The whole process went well. I can tell you some of the big things that we did look at in this one. We did minor tweaks to the hours worked, just to make it easier for both management staffing and also our employees. We, obviously you heard the wage issues. We did some changes to ensure that we were, the correct usage for the FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, was being adhered to. We also did some changes so that some of the wording was correct for our light duty issues, which we changed from light duty to temporary duty to ensure that we had the right legal wording in effect. And then we also looked at the changing of the random drug testing so that it was consistent with the rest of the city, and we went to a 5-panel instead of a 7-panel testing for the DOT drug panels. So that was a big thing. Things went really well. It was really, like Bill said, a collaborative effort, both on management side and on union side, and it was a pleasant experience to do it. It was different. It was great. Yes.
Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Would anybody want to speak to this item before I turn it over to the council? Council.
Move to
Councilor
approve.
Staggers.
Yes, it sounds like Jimmy'd like to do this again
No.
real soon.
Not soon.
But I had the same question I had for Bill, and that's in regard to the 9% pay increase over the next 3 years. Do you know what percentage of your firefighters are going to be getting more than 9% over the next 3 years?
I would have to look it up and work with HR to see where they're going to be at for that 9%, because we do have people. We would have people some people getting promoted because of retirements. Some people may be getting a step increase, which would change. So I couldn't tell you, Councilman, right off the top of my head. I have to do some research and work with Bill's team and also finance to see where that number would be at.
Okay. And also, one other question I have is in regard to the 5-panel drug testing instead of the 7-panel. Can you say something? I guess I've always been concerned about the drug testing within the city government itself. The non-DOT drug testing, where it's just random, people are picked here, there, whatever. So what is this 5-panel? Can you distinguish between 5 and 7 panel?
I would have to defer. I know we wanted to make it consistent, but I can't speak well enough, and I don't know if
Bill, could you answer Councilor Staggers' question?
Counselor, what we have done is we've removed, the difference between a 5 and 7 panel is the number of drugs you're testing for.
Okay.
The DOT requirement is a 5 panel, so the 5 panel testing components are identified under the federal regulations. What we decided to do is peel back in those areas where we were exceeding the federal requirements, so that we're consistent across the board.
Okay, thank you.
Move to approve.
Councilor Bucks made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Thank you, Chief.
42 is a resolution approving the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and police officers and sergeants, Sioux Falls Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 1 LC.
Very good. Item 47, Chief Barthel, welcome.
Good evening, Doug Barthel, Police Chief. Most of our changes mirror some of those that you've already heard about in the other 2 contracts, so I'll just hit a couple of those that weren't mentioned. We did increase standby pay by $20, which only applies to a couple of people per week, so it's a fairly insignificant change for that. Just kind of brings it in line with some others around the city. We did it allows officers to take vacation leave in increments of 15 minutes or more rather than the current limit of just an hour. No cost to the city on that. Differential pay, which is offered to those that work from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m., it's 50 cents extra per hour. That's currently in the contract, but it only applies to those that are normally scheduled during those hours. So if someone has to work those off hours due to some special duty, they currently don't receive the additional 50 cents. This change would allow that pay to be given to those people. And the administrative leave when City Hall is closed in the unlikely event of a snow event or some other event that might come up where City Hall is closed and administrative staff gets off. We currently allow those that are required to work to get time that's equal to that they can use. The way the language was written before was kind of confusing, so we cleaned that up. So now it'll be basically the same amount of time that the office staff gets off, the officers on the street will get as well. And there was also language added to the contract that creates a retirement health savings plan for officers. When they retire, they can put that money into a tax deferred account and no cost to the city for that. Happy to answer any questions. I too was also very pleased with the process. Record time for us, 2 meetings, and we were done. So,
Thank you, Chief. Yeah. Would anybody want to speak to this item? Councilor Staggers?
Yeah, just the same question I've been asking before, Doug, about the 9% pay increase over 3 years. What percentage of your police officers are, because of steps now, are probably going to get over 9%?
I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers.
Would be about 50% would get more than 99%?
50%?
Yeah, of the officers. Does that sound about right, or?
Oh, gosh, yeah, I'd be just guessing. Probably somewhere in that area, yeah. Maybe 1 out of 3, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, maybe to help answer Councilor Staggers' question that's been asked 3 times tonight, isn't it fair to say that the more junior or less tenured that an employee is, whether they're in AFSCME, fire, or police, the odds of them getting a step increase are higher, and then once they are more tenured or they've reached their max step, they no longer get those. Is that correct?
That would be correct. And just playing those odds, Mayor, in terms of steps 1 through 5, having more people in them than steps 5 through 9, because there are fewer of them, unless your demographics are really out of whack, there probably would be more people in those lower steps. But we don't have those numbers.
Sure, I understand. And we are going to have more retirements potentially in the years to come with the new pension agreement that was made. So to Councilor Staggers' question, as we bring in this new blood or these new FTEs, they'll probably have a greater propensity to have a step increase.
That would be correct.
Okay. Councilor Staggers, is that okay?
Oh, no, that's
good. Thank
good
you. I appreciate that. Council, any motions on this?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Rolfing has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Karski. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That's passed 7-0. Item 48.
Item 48 is a report of the October 29th, 2013 Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within major organizational units.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Cotter, would you mind coming forward, please? Could you just give the council and the city just a brief update on snow removal tonight? I know you sent me a text, but I thought it'd be appropriate to tell the council since they lead the city.
Certainly. Snow removal, snowfall is winding down as we speak. We've essentially focused on the arterial roads and the main collectors with one-way plows, and we're plowing off that slush. We do have a full crew coming in at midnight just to address, if we get some ice over, we'll readdress some of those icing areas. We're also going to run through some of the troubled areas in the residential. They may be a steeper street that if we have to put some product down to enhance that melt, we'll do that. With the improving temperatures throughout the course of starting Wednesday and then really getting nice from Thursday through the weekend, and National Weather Service is starting to tell us even mid-November we should see some really nice temperatures, that we don't intend to call a snow alert for this one, just with the positive melt. But we would always tell people, continue to drive safe, and we should really see the majority of this snow melted by Friday.
Thank you. Council, if you don't mind with that update. Councilor Jameson.
One other item, if I could.
Please.
Mike Cooper. There's somebody that's missing tonight that has been here for quite some time, but he's not here tonight. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, thank you. Many of you are familiar with Steve Randall, who has been at my side many nights at council meetings. Steve is entering into the retirement stage of his life starting next Tuesday. We thought at one time he was going to be joining us tonight, but a family circumstance did not allow him to be here tonight. Steve has served this community for just over 18 years. His background is in architecture, urban design, and planning. He's been a fantastic asset to our staff, our community, and we are going to really miss his service. I know that's kind of a cliche, but we really are. Diane DeCoyer, who is in the audience tonight, is going to be stepping into his shoes, and she's going to do a great job. But yeah, Steve will be missed, and he's been around for 18 years, and so tomorrow night will be his last Planning Commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And Councilor Jameson, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I think we should clap. Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Randall and family, thank you for your sacrifice. Appreciate it. Council, any other items?
Move to adjourn.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Jameson made a motion to adjourn this meeting, seconded by Councilor Bach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Sioux Falls. Thank you, City Council.